Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. If you use this promo code for a discount between March 31st, 2023 and April 21st, 2023, you will automatically be entered into a sweepstakes where you could win a March of the Machine set booster box. There's also another way to enter where no purchase is necessary. See the link in the description below for full details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. It is March of the Machine Prerelease Weekend, and as a whole, the market is slower this week as a lot of attention is turning to the new set, but we still have several cards trending up to discuss. As usual, our threshold is $2. We're not going to talk about a card unless it's moving up at least $2, and if you're interested to find out which cards are moving down at least $2, we did put out a series of shorts on the channel this weekend. You'll find all that information there. Quickly before we get started, a couple things. I do want to say thank you to one of the viewers, the Shib. Thank you very much for giving another generous super thanks tip for last weekend's video. I really appreciate that. Helps the channel a ton. Thank you so much for that, the Shib. And one more thing to point out, if you go over to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use the Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pre-order March of the Machine products there. They also now have March of the Machine The Aftermath available for pre-order as well under the pre-order tab there. Plus they have a whole lot of other things on their website. Remember, if your order's over $100 or it consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use the Heroes promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated. So thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Again, this week we do not have a standard legal spotlight, not too surprising because the new set, of course, is about to come out. A lot of players want to see what's going to happen before they go back to buying standard legal cards. However, there is one Pioneer legal card moving this week. That is Cavalier of Dawn. This goes up $4.42 to $10.31. You do find this in the 4-color Fires of Invention Pioneer decks, also sometimes in the 5-color variation as well. But the format pushing this currently is Commander. The card had been seeing some increased play there recently in Elesh Norn Mother Machines builds, but March of the Machine is having the biggest influence on the card this week. It will most certainly be a good upgrade to the Esper Knight Tribal Commander deck Cavalry Charge. And I've also seen this in early fresh deck lists around the front-facing Commander from there, Sadar Jabari of Zelfir. And that quickly brings us to the Modern Legal Spotlight. Let's see which Modern Legal cards are moving up the most this week. We have Snake Umbra from Plane Chase 2012. This copy goes up $2.08 to $5.03, but this one is dry online compared to the other copies, and that's inflating the price a little bit currently. It may very well just retract quickly when more copies enter the marketplace, but the card truly is seeing more play in Commander around Thronebreaker of Silence. Lightning Greaves from Arch Enemy up $2.18 to $13.04. Similar story here. This harder to find copy has been turbulent recently and hard to find online in high grade. There's a lot of printings of this, and most of them sell for about $10 to $11. Considering the amount of printings though, that might still seem expensive, but you have to consider that this is a Commander staple found in tons of decks in the format. This also appears at times in Legacy Rakdos Painter, and that's a pretty popular build in that format right now. Next, we have Doubling Season from Double Masters. It goes up $2.27 this week to $97.68. However, the Battle Bond and Modern Masters copy are both moving down this week. When it comes to gameplay though, this is a very popular Commander card. It's in lots of builds like Atraxa Praetor's Voice, for example. And you know this by now, but whenever a new set comes out, it brings plenty of cards that play well with Doubling Season, and March of the Machine is no exception. For example, this could be a good upgrade to a couple of the new Commander decks, Call for Backup, and Tinker Time. Next is Emeria the Sky Ruin. This is the copy from the list. It goes up $4.19 to $31.35. Sometimes you do see this in Modern Bant Control, but it is also found in lots of Commander builds, including popular ones like Giada Font of Hope and Elesh Norn Mother Machines. Could also be a good upgrade to Cavalry Charge too. Kinsvale Cavalier, the Morningtide copy is up $4.84 to $19.99. The Dual Decks Knights vs. Dragons copy goes up $6.25 to $18.74. So traditionally, this card saw a little Commander play. It was frequently in Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale, for example. But now you guessed it, this is another good upgrade to Cavalry Charge. In fact, it was mentioned as such on a Nitpicking Nerds video this week, which could have brought a little more attention to it. Now, aside from just being a straight up upgrade, I am seeing people put this in new builds around one of the cards from that deck that I mentioned a moment ago, Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. By the way, in case you're wondering, the foil copy is jumping quite a bit too this week. There's only one. It's from Morning Tide. It is going up $16.33 to $45. And speaking of foils, there was one we discussed last week that is still spiking. Let's look at it and see what's happening here. It is Dan Dan. This foil is from the Time Spiral Time Shifted subset. And like the previous card, it's the only copy in foil currently. It is up $48.28 this week to $94.95. Now, most of the non-foil copies are stable for the most part this week after they spiked last week. But the Arabian Nights copy is still moving up a little bit, just over $3. I didn't make a slide for that card since we don't typically talk about Arabian Nights cards in these videos. They're just very difficult to find at high grade nowadays. But if you missed the last couple episodes of the Market Watch, you might be curious as to why this card is going up, so here's a quick explanation. There is a kitchen table format called Forgetful Fish. Players play with one shared deck of 80 cards. Traditionally, there's 10 copies of Dan Dan in this deck, and 6 copies of Memory Lapse, although there's variations on that. Throughout the rest of the deck, you typically find a number of blue tempo spells. In fact, we're going to be talking about some other cards spiking because of this deck later. But you might be asking, why is this format so hot right now? Well, because recently Ristic Studies did a YouTube video looking at the history and explaining how to play the format. Shortly after that, once the cards started moving up, TCG Player also did an article about the format that could have brought some further attention to it, but a lot of players have been interested and they've been trying to put together these decks to play with. That brings us to my favorite section of the video, the Eternal Spotlight. Our salute to all Eternal formats, but mostly Commander. Now, obviously, not every card in this section is going to be legal in all Eternal formats, but I'll tell you where these are not legal. Standard, Pioneer, and Modern. We'll begin with Gilded Drake. This goes up $2.34 to $273.52. This has been trending down since late last year, but it bumps up slightly this week. Solid Commander card in several different builds. This also sees play in a number of pre-modern decks, and that format has been having a bigger impact on card prices recently. Dockside Extortionist. This is the one from Commander 2019. It goes up $2.51 to $59.83. Now, this had calmed down for a while due to the reprinting in Double Masters 2022, but now this card is sliding upwards again. When it comes to gameplay, you already know this is a huge Commander card in many builds. Basically, if you're playing Red in Commander, you probably want this. Also, it was suggested as an upgrade to the Tinker Time Commander deck in a Nitpicking Nerds video this week. Reanimate. The Battle Royale copy goes up $2.56 this week to $23.56. Another harder to find copy here that's moving up because it is dry online currently. Now, a couple other copies like the Premium Deck Series Graveborn copy and the Archenemy copy are both moving down this week, so just be advised of that. Reanimate, though, has been hot because it is found in the updated Legacy Reanimator decks with a Drechsler Grand Unifier. This is also in Legacy Death Shadow and Oops All Spells too, and it's in lots of different Commander decks. Additionally, this was mentioned on an episode of the Command Zone podcast this week as a card you might want to put in a build around a new card from March of the Machine, Sheoldred / The True Scriptures. Mox Diamond from Stronghold is next. It's up $2.85 this week to $623.57. This is in Legacy Lands, Naiad Depths. It also shows up in a variety of Commander decks. Overall, this is a pretty small percentage increase, but I did want to point it out because the card was losing some value recently. Seems like it's stable now. Grindstone from Tempest up $2.87 this week to $43.99. This is in Legacy Rakdos Painter. Like I mentioned earlier, continues to be a popular build there. It also gets a little Commander play, typically in decks also containing Painter's Servant. In fact, on an episode of the Command Zone podcast this week, they suggested playing those cards in a build around the new Sheoldred we mentioned a moment ago. Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. This is up $3.03 to $14.40. It is from the Warhammer 40k Commander deck called the Ruinous Powers, and since its release, it has seen a fair amount of Commander play in a variety of decks. But the reason it's moving this much now is because it's in many early Commander deck lists around a new card, Edgin Larcenous Lieutenant from the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves Secret Lair. Next we have Mana Echoes. The original Onslaught copy goes up $3.11 to $23.92. Solid card for tribal Commander decks that contain red. Recently it's been seen in Urtet Remnant and Memnarch builds. It also shows up frequently in Sliver decks there, and remember, one of the Commander Masters Commander decks coming out later this year is called Sliver Swarm. Does this card get reprinted there or somewhere else between now and then? Well, maybe. If it does not though, it could get hot again. Diminishing returns, the original Alliance's copy of $3.18 to $5.37. This has seen a little commander play. It's in Nekusar the Mind Razor, for example, at times. But the reason this is hot now is because it frequently shows up in those Forgetful Fish decks we mentioned earlier. Lake of the Dead is up 334 this week to 104.27. This has been a little turbulent recently. It is in a number of commander builds though, including Carrick, son of Yawgmoth. Goblin Sharpshooter, the original Onslaught copy, is up 343 this week to 29.99. This has also been very turbulent recently, but overall, this copy has been trending up. You see this in some different commander decks, including Gyerson's Darn Kellermorph, and sometimes it appears in Legacy Goblins. Additionally, this is another card that sees pre-modern play. Sarah's Sanctum up 355 this week to 274.55. This is in Legacy Enchantress. You also see this at times in enchantment-heavy commander builds, like Sithis Harvest Hand, for example. And remember, in the future, Commander Masters is coming and it is bringing an Abzan commander deck called Enduring Enchantments. This might be a good upgrade there. And it also will play well with a new legendary creature coming in Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth. We've talked a lot about this card recently, Tom Bombadil. Tom is a legendary creature of 5-color identity that cares about sagas. Next we have Keeper of Secrets of $4.03 to $7.76. This is also from the Ruinous Powers Warhammer 40k commander deck, and it has been in a number of different builds in the format since it came out, including Prosper Tomebound. But I have seen this now in many early commander deck lists around Edgin Larcenous Lieutenant from that Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves Secret Lair. Keeper of Secrets may also be a good upgrade to that March of the Machine Tinker Time commander deck. Edgin, though, has really been what's pushing the price this week. Ancient Tomb, the copy from the list, is up $4.09 to $84.99. This is a big mana-based card in Legacy. It's found in popular decks too, like 8-Cast, Rakdos Painter, and much more. In Vintage, it's found in Mono White Initiative and more there, plus it's in a lot of commander mana bases. Plateau from Revised is next. It goes up $4.48 to $345.03. The Revised dual lands are still turbulent. They have been that way ever since the 30th Anniversary Edition announcement. As far as gameplay goes, of course, they're highly played in all the formats where they're legal. Demonic Tutor. Recently, we've seen a lot of different copies of this card move up in value. This week we have 3 to talk about. Dual Deck Synthology goes up $3.97 to $56.56. The revised copies up $4.26 to $53.25. And the Dual Decks Divine vs. Demonic copies up $4.90 to $54.89. You're going to see this in Vintage Esper Tinker and much more there, and it's another huge commander card found in many different decks in that format. In fact, it was mentioned in the Command Zone podcast this week as a card you might want to play around that new Sheoldred as well. Crystal Spray goes up $5.04 this week to $22.28. This is an older card, yet to be reprinted. It's hard to find online in high grade. Traditionally, it's only seen a tad bit of commander play, but the reason it's hot is because it is another card included many times in those Forgetful Fish decks we discussed earlier. Natural Order, the original Visions copy, is up $6.18 this week to $27.07. Legacy is one of the key drivers here again. You find this in Elves and 5-color Zenith there. It's also in lots of different commander builds, like Tovolar Dire Overlord, for example, or Chatterfang Squirrel General. And it was mentioned on the Command Zone podcast this week as a card you may want to play in builds around a couple new cards from March of the Machine. Surak and Goreclaw is one. The other one was Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Mana Crypt. This is the original media promo book giveaway copy. It goes up $6.90 to $335.77. But remember, Wizards just sold more Mystery Booster Convention Edition boxes in the Festival in a Box Minneapolis 2023 Secret Lair. So more copies of Mana Crypt have begun to circulate. In fact, the Double Masters and Eternal Masters copies are both trending down this week. This original, though, hard to find in high grades, still moving up. When it comes to gameplay, it's in a lot of vintage builds, including Esper Tinker, and it's a big commander card in many different decks there. Humility up $8.31 this week to $67.99. This is in one of those hot new Legacy builds we've been talking about recently. It is a Jeskai Shorakai Token Humility control deck, plus you also see this in Jeskai Stoneblade builds too. Like we've discussed over the last few weeks, the Legacy format has been wide open ever since the recent bannings of Expressive Iteration and White Plume Adventurer. We've seen a lot of new decks try to break in and some big meta shifts. But back to Humility, this does happen to see pre-modern play as well. And additionally, it's in some Commander decks too. It tracks the Praetor's Voice as one, for example, but really Legacy is the key driver this time. Our last couple cards are revised dual lands. Tundra from revised of 1277 to 489.99. And Underground Sea from revised of 1575 to 825.75. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. But like I said at the top of the video, if you're interested in finding out which cards are trending down, just check out the shorts we put out this weekend. But until next time, hey, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.